Hello and welcome back to my poetry channel. The poem that I have for you today is a longer one than I usually do. It's by Louis MacNeice and it's called The Kingdom, but I'm going to read it because I think it's not a very well known poem and I think it's a really excellent one and really shows the humanity in Louis MacNeice. The Kingdom. Under the surface of flux and of fear, there is an underground movement. Under the crust of bureaucracy, quiet behind the posters, unconscious but palpably there, the kingdom of individuals. And of these is the kingdom. Equal indifference, interchangeably sovereign, the incorruptible souls who work without a commission, the pairs of hands that are peers of hearts, the eyes that marry with eyes, the candid scholar, the unselfish priest, the uncomplaining mothers of many, the active men who are kind, the contemplative who give, the happy-go-lucky saint, and the peace-loving buccaneer. These, as being themselves, are apart from not each other, but from such as being false are merely other. So these are apart as parts within a pattern, not merged nor yet excluded, members of a kingdom which has no king except each subject, therefore apart from slaves and tyrants, and from every community of mere convenience. These are apart from those who drift and those who force, apart from partisan order and egotistical anarchy, apart from the easy religion of him who would find in God a boss, a ponce, an alibi, and apart from the logic of him who arrogates to himself the secret of the universe, the whole choreography of atoms. These are humble and proud at once, working within their limits and yet transcending them. These are the people who vindicate the species, and they are many. For go wherever you choose, among tidy villas or terrible docks, dumps and pitheads, or through the spangled moors, or along the vibrant narrow intestines of great ships, or into those countries of which we know very little. Everywhere you will discover the men of the kingdom, loyal by intuition, born to attack and innocent. Take this old man with the soldierly straight back, dressed in tweeds like a squire, but he has not a squire's presumption. His hands are gentle with wild flowers, his memory latticed with dialect and anecdotes and wisps of nature poetry. He is of the kingdom, a country lover and very English, the cadence of Christmas bells in his voice, his face like Cotswold stone, severe but warm, a sureness in his walk, and his blood attuned to the seasons, whether it is the glyptic winter turning feathered twigs to stone and making the old Bill Pollard's monuments beside the Dyke of Lethe, or if it is the frantic calf love and early oratory of spring, of peony time with the midges dancing, or later, sweeter, that two-in-one of clarity and mist, of maiden light and ripeness, which is autumn. Every case is new, and yet he knows the answers, for he is of the kingdom. through the serene and checker fields that he knows he walks like a fallen angel whose fall has made him a man. Ladders of cirrus cloud lead down as well as up. The ricochet of rain makes the clay smell sweet, and snow in sunlight affirms the tussocks under it. Such changes, the hedgerow stippled with hips or lathered with elder, to him are his own rhythm, like his breathing, and intimate as dreams. Hirsute or fluted earth, squares of plough and stubble, oat cake and corduroy, russet and emerald, and the shot silk evening, and all the folk song stars. These are his palette, and it is he who blends them with the brushstrokes of long experience and sudden insight, being mature and yet naive, a lover of what is not himself, but it becomes himself, and he repays it interest. So has had a happy life, and will die happy. More belongs, though he never knew it, to the kingdom. When she had her stroke, the china dogs did not even flinch, although they might have guessed that tomorrow no one would dust them. But the family felt that this was an act of God, and did not see the syllogism slouched across the kitchen table, the inevitable caller, given poverty, given two on the dole and one a cripple, given the false peace and the plight of England, and given her matriarchal pride, her bones that would not rest, her arrogation of every job in the house to herself, given her grim good humour, her daily tonic against despair, given her wakeful nights trying to balance the budget, and given her ignorance of her own frailty, what other end was coming? They propped her up while the canary fidgeted with his seed, and the clock hiccuped, being about to strike, and someone ran for the doctor. Our mother is taken bad. Everything in that house was mutually possessive. She was our mother, Dad was called our dad, Connie our Connie, and the cat our tiger. But now the most possessing and the most possessed was on her way to leave them. They did not see even that this was so. They did not see the tall clock stretch his arms like a rising cross, or see the steam of the kettle turn to incense. Our mother is taken bad, and that was all. They did not see that the only cable was broken that had held them together, self-respecting and sane, and that chaos was now on the move. For they did not know, except at times by inklings, that their home remained a rebel island in the sea of authorized disgust, only because their mother, who thought herself resigned, was a born rebel against the times and loyal to a different order, being enfranchised of the kingdom. Drunk again? Where do you think you are? I think I'm somewhere where I don't belong. I chanced in here from the kingdom, and he crashed his heavyweight hand among the chipped and dinted vessels of false good fellowship, went out into the night with his chin like a bulldozer, churning a trough of fury. Then the night, being herself, archaic and instinctive, welcomed his earthy anger, clapped him on the back, and told him stories that were not wit but humour, not smut but satire talk, not clever but wise, not elegant but poetry. And his mouth relaxed, his head went back, and he laughed, hearing the bugle that blows tomorrow morning, blows for a hard routine, blows for the life automatic, for spit and polish and jargon and deference to fools, but blows also for comrades, blows for a gay and a brave unforced solidarity, blows for the elemental community, blows for knowledge of shared emotion, past and future, blows for the static life that suddenly comes to life with the smell at dawn of running engines, and blows as well to those who have ears to hear and hands to strike for the kingdom. Too large in feature for a world of cuties, too sculptured for a cocktail lounge flirtation. This girl is almost awkward, carrying off the lintel of convention on her shoulders, a Doric river goddess with a picture of ice-cold, wild emotions. Pour them where she will, the pitcher will not empty, nor the stream grow warm, but is so cold it burns. Vitality and fear are marbled in her eyes from hour to hour. She changes like the sky. One moment is so gay that all her words are laughter, but the next moment she is puzzled. Her own sphinx, made granite by her destiny, encumbered with the dour horoscopes of dying nations, deduced from dying stars. So what can you expect? Behind that classic forehead, under that smooth Renaissance dome, the Gothic devils revel around a corpse, allegedly a saint's, and sniff the holy candles, and cackle and deny, and their denial torments her with a doubt. She raises once again her pitcher, tilts it. Will the water flow? And see, it flows ice cold as ever, anarchic, pure and healing, for she filled it one day that is not dead, at a lost well, between two rocks, under a sombre ilex, in the grey dawn, in a deserted corner of the remembered kingdom. A little dapper man, but with shiny elbows and short keen sight, he lived by measuring things, and died like a recurring decimal run off the page, refusing to be curtailed. Died, as they say, in harness, still believing in science, reason, progress, left his work unfinished ipso facto, which, continued, will supersede his name in the next textbook and relegate him to the anonymous crowd of small discoverers in lab or cloister who link us with the Ice Age. Obstinately he canalized his fervour. It was slow, the task he set himself, but plotting points on graph paper, he felt the emerging curve, like the first flutterings of an embryo in somebody's first pregnancy. Resembled a pregnant woman too, in that his logic yet made that hidden child the centre of the world and almost a messiah, so that here, even here over the shining test tubes, the spirit of the alchemist still hovered, hungry for magic, for the philosopher's stone, and progress. Is that magic too? He never would have conceded it, not even in these last years of endemic doubt. In his perspective, our present tyrants shrank into parochial lords of misrule, cross eddies in a river that has to reach the sea. But has it? Who told him the sea was there? Maybe he told himself, and the mere name of progress was a shell to hold to the ear and hear the breakers burgeon. Rules were rules, and all induction checked, but in the end his reasoning hinged on faith, and the first axiom was oracle or instinct. He was simple, this man who flogged his brain. He was a child, and so, whatever progress means in general, he in his work meant progress. Patiently a Stone Age man, he flaked himself away by blocked out patterns on a core of flint, so that the core which was himself diminished, until his friends complained that he had lost something in charm or interest. But conversely, his mind developed like an ancient church by the accretion of side aisles and the enlarging of lights, till all the walls are windows and the sky comes in, if coloured. Such a mind, a man, deserves a consecration. Such a church bears in its lines the trademark of the kingdom. All is well, said the voice from the tiny pulpit. All is well with the child. And the voice cracked, for the preacher was very old, and the coffin down in the aisle held the body of one who had been his friend and colleague for 40 years and was dead in daffodil time before it had come to Easter. All is well with one who believed and practiced, and whose life presumed the resurrection. What that means, he may have felt he knew. This much is certain. The meaning filled his actions, made him courteous and lyrical and strong and kind and truthful, a generous Puritan, above whose dust, about this time each year, the spendthrift plants will toss their trumpets, heralding a life that shows itself in time, but remains timeless, as is the heart of music. So today, these yellow fanfares in the trench re-echo before the spades get busy, the same phrase the preacher lost his voice on. All is well, the flowers say, with the child. And so it must be, for it is said, the children are of the kingdom. Over the roofs and cranes, blistered cupola and hungry smokestack, over the moored balloons and the feathery tufts of searchlights, over the cold transmitters jabbering under the moon, over the hump of the ocean big with wrecks, and over our hide-bound, fog-bound lives, the hosts of the living collect like migrant birds or bees to the sound of a gong. Subjects all of the kingdom, but each in himself a king. These are the people who know in their bones the answer to the statesman's quiz and the false reformer's crude alternatives and ultimatums. These have eyes and can see each other's goodness, do not need salvation by whip, brochure, sterilization, or drugs, being incurably human. These are the catalytics to break the inhuman into humanity. These are the voices whose words, whether in code or in clear, are to the point and can be received apart from the buzz of jargon, apart from the cranks, the timid, the self-deceiving realist, the self-seeking altruist, the self-indulgent penitent. Apart from all the frauds are these who have the courage of their own vision and their friends' goodwill, and have not lost their cosmic pride, responding both to the simple lyrics of blood and the architectonic fugues of reason. These have their faults, like all creators, like the hero who must die, or like the artist who himself is like a person with one hand working it into a glove. Yes, they have their faults, but are the chosen, because they have chosen, being beautiful if grotesque, and wise though wilful, and hard as meteorites. Of these, of such, is your hope, your clue, your cue, your snowball letter that makes your soft flakes hard, your aspirations active. Of such is your future if it is to be fruitful. Of such is your widow's cruse, your Jacob's ladder. Of such is the garden of souls, the orchestration of instinct, the fertilization of mind. Of such are your beacons, your breaking of bread, your dance of desire, your northwest passage. Of such is the epilogue to your sagas of bronze and steel, your amnesty, your advent, your rebirth, the archetype and the vindication of history, the hierarchy of the equal, the kingdom of earth.